Because it will lead to your will lead to the integration.
Yeah.
One of my professors before in college said this symbol actually came from the summation. Was
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because the concept of integral is really summing.
Yes.
That it comes from the Raymond.
Yeah.
So you're like you have a curve, right? You want to know the area of this, so you can actually cut them into tiniest rectangles and have them. So it's
Sorry.
All right.
All right.
Well, let's go ahead and get started here on Schoology stuff. So the presentation that I'm using is right here. If you open it and save it to your Google Drive, that way you can come back to it. My Schoology course, we're going to be using my Schoology Sandbox course. The code is right there. There are examples of all of these things in there. And one of the reasons that I wanted you guys to use your Chromebooks is since all of our students have Chromebooks, it's good for you to see what things look like on the Chromebooks. Yep. So this is a judgment-free zone. I have picked things from people's classes, sometimes without them knowing it. So if you see something that's yours, you don't have to claim it if it's a less than perfect example. But this is also you know, we're all new to Schoology and we're all just kind of getting up to speed with it. So we're in that learning phase, and you know, there's not really right or wrong about anything here. It's just there might be some better ways to do things to make them work a little bit more effectively for students. So our goals for today are to work to develop student-centered, visually appealing assignments and materials. And there's two questions that we're going to ask ourselves. So how can I make this easier for students? And how can I make this more visually appealing? And one thing that, you know, as we go through, and we're, like I said, we're fairly new to Schoology, to keep in mind is that it might take a little bit of time as we develop our lessons the first time this year and convert our stuff to Schoology lessons. But once it's created, we can then copy those from our resources for next year, and they're already created, and next year is going to be a lot smoother and a lot easier for you. So all the examples are in my Sandbox course. This is my course that you'll get kicked out of every night. So a couple things to keep in mind is that you will automatically be removed from the course every night. I'm teaching this for Digital Learning Summer Summit, and I didn't want to end up with 400 people in my class. So I decided to do it in here. So make a note of the join code, so that way you can rejoin at any time. And if there's anything you see in here that you really like and you want a copy of it, let me know and I will make arrangements for you to have access. So a couple of things that precipitated the creation of this class. In November, December, we got student data from the division Schoology survey. There was actually 1,300 students surveyed on this, so we got some pretty good data back from the students. My teachers know how to use Schoology and help me to learn, so surprisingly we had, you know, about 77, 78% on that. So that's pretty good. We're doing pretty good. They agree that we know how to use it and we're using it for them. My teachers have shown me how to use Schoology. So again, about 77%. So we're doing a pretty good job getting our students to use the stuff. My teachers have shown me how to use Schoology. Not quite as many, but still we're in the positive. So that, you know, we're in a good place there. So we're doing a good job with that. So some things that students have told us also, and all of this data is on these tan colored sheets on the page on your table. Get more excited about learning. So 80% said no. Now, you know, we got to take that with a grain of salt, because how excited are our students about learning in general anyway, right? But we want to try and help them with this. And that's really kind of what today is about. The other student survey data, how satisfied are they with Schoology? And, you know, a little more than half are not really happy with it. And I think we're going to address some of the reasons why today. Yeah, and well, and And that's the other thing, that from the teacher survey, 73% of our teachers are happy with Schoology. So what's the disconnect there, and what can we do with that? So I got a quick story to tell you. So way back when I was in college, I bought a mountain bike. And my first one was actually, this is not my first one, this is my second one. Mountain bikes were just coming out. They were new at that time because this was a long time ago when I went to college. And so this was my first mountain bike, and it was a way better improvement than my first one I had, because my first one weighed probably about 50 pounds. It was made out of, like, I think cast iron and lead. And the wheels were steel, and yeah, it was kind of crazy. New mountain bikes kind of look like this, right? This is kind of the new mountain bike. So this is Google Classroom. This is Schoology. So, you know, this old mountain bike, it's rigid frame. This one's got suspension, right? I had a grand total of like 18 speeds on this one. So, man, I was doing something, because my other one had 15. So that was an upgrade. This one has like 33 speeds. So this one has like a 33 gear cluster, or an 11 gear cluster in the back. This has hydraulic brakes. Man, you can stop on a dime with these things. They have a lot more power. These were side pull brakes. When these wheels got wet, man, it was just like, whee! There was no stopping going downhill. This, because they've got you know, they stop really quickly. This bike had what's called friction shifters, which meant that you kind of had a lever that you just adjusted, and, you know, you could adjust it infinitely. So if you weren't quite in gear, you just adjust it a little bit. This one has index shifting. You push a button and it changes gears. And some of them now even have electronic shifting, that you push a button and it changes gears. The problem with this bike is that it's a lot more complicated. And if it's not adjusted well, it doesn't ride well, and you're not going to enjoy it, right? If you don't have the shocks adjusted for your weight or for the terrain you're riding on, it's not going to work well. If you don't have your brakes, they're hydraulic. If you don't have them trimmed right, it's not going to work. Right. If your derailleur is misadjusted, when you push the button, it moves at a certain amount, but if it's not moving it to the right place, you don't go in the right gear, right? So there's a lot more moving parts on this. This bike weighs like 22 pounds, whereas this one weighed like 30 plus, and my other one weighed like, 150 pounds. So there are trade-offs, right? So we got quick and simple, or we got something that's going to really do a lot better job for you, but it needs some tweaking. And I think that's where we are with Google Classroom versus Schoology. The kids, one of the things that they say is, oh, I like Schoology because it was prettier and it did this. But what they don't necessarily realize is that Schoology really wasn't meant to be a full-fledged learning management system. It was designed to help with sharing of Google Docs and to make it easy for students for us as teachers to share a document with students, them to easily turn it in. And that's pretty much about all it did. Yeah, it did some things. You could put in links to websites, you can post announcements and stuff and differentiate a little bit. That's in the newer versions that we didn't use. So some of these things down here are actually new to Google Classroom because they weren't in the versions that we were using. But Schoology, it's a full-fledged learning management system. Much better organization. You can put folders. You can create folders within folders. You couldn't do that with Google Classroom. It was just a straight down kind of a stream of consciousness, right? We have discussion boards, tests, quizzes, lots of stuff integrated directly in.
So much better with assessment versus.
It is. We have AMP. We have tests and quizzes. We have the grade book, and we have we're not using attendance, but we do have the grade book. They are testing the grade pass back to Synergy in 2 schools. They've gotten finally to that point where they can do that. So hopefully next year we'll have grade pass back so we can sync our grades straight to it. Mastery, we can tag objectives to test questions and to alignment and to assignments and everything, so we can go back at the end of the year and say, okay, what have I covered? What do I need to cover again? Who are the kids that need to go to boot camp before SOLs? And it makes it a lot easier for us to pull those things. And those are things we couldn't do with Google Classroom. But kind of like the mountain bike, if it's not tweaked right, students aren't going to use it and it's going to be more difficult for them. So our goal today is to help make these things work a little better for students. So the question is, how can we transition our traditional lessons to make them work effectively in a digital environment? And do all traditional lessons survive the transition? And should they survive the transition? And I really think with this question right here, definitely not. And especially with math and especially with, you know, equations and stuff like that, it's really difficult for you guys.
Lastly, they would provide something where they could use stylus.
Well, we're not there yet. And, you know, 5 years from now, we might be there. Who knows? But, you know, I don't know. That when we get to that point and they can use a stylus on it, then that just eliminates the whole math issue, and right. But you know, there's nothing to say that everything in your class has to be, you know, a digital lesson. You shouldn't necessarily be standing up there and going, okay, go to Schoology and do this lesson. I'm going to sit at my desk. That's not the point of where we are. I mean, we have those direct instruction things, and you know, there's definitely a time and place for traditional lessons while we're in class, but you know, we want to make sure that we're using Schoology effectively because we do have it as a resource for us. So I wanted to show you a couple of ways. We've been kind of looking around in Schoology because we have access, we can see everybody's stuff. So we just looked around to see how people are using it. Thematic units. There's a lot of people that have kind of thematic units set up for students. Makes it really easy for them to go back and find some stuff. A lot of people have class resources, math folks particularly, because you don't necessarily you're not able to put a lot of stuff and have a lot of assignments in there. A lot of teachers are using it just as class resources. You were absent today, the stuff that we did is on there. Some teachers, this class doesn't have it in here, but here's class notes. Here's what I taught from today in class. And then here's answer keys. A lot of teachers have resources like Khan Academy and some of those things in their classes. And some teachers have even, you know, when they're teaching stuff here, you can run either the Smart Notebook app or the Active Inspire and record yourself doing those. So you're the one actually, you can have videos of you teaching those things in your classes. Yeah, I think there are definitely some people that have those. Yeah, discussion boards are great for you guys. Absolutely.
Because some kids are too shy to share what they think.
Right.
So I post the discussion there, like a question.
Right.
And the kids will just be there and I can see them.
And because the discussions can be asynchronous too, it works great if you give those assignments as a homework assignment too, you know, to discuss. Get on here, do your homework, then discuss on here, or, you know, things like that. There are a fair number of people that are using like Time Machine, we call it, kind of we break it up in weeks. So here's January, February, March. And a lot of people have like dates. So they'll have, some people have kind of a combination. This is unit 2, and then they'll have dates in there. Now, the concern I have with that is that if you put a date on it, when you copy it to your resource folder, you've got this year's dates on it. So, you know, yeah, and some people have like day 1, day 2, day 3. So that makes it a little more generic to use. Like this one has week 1, week 2, week 3, you know, like that.
Would mine say my A date, and if I copy my B date, of course it's a different date. So
right. So you have to go in and edit the
let's
dates.
say I was out April 6th. I'll just go to the folder with April 6th.
Yep. Now the one thing that I've had some kids come in here for, you know, questions about stuff, and sometimes when they have a lot of dates in there, so, you know, like the dates like these, well, find me that assignment. I don't know what day it was. They don't know what dates they have stuff, and if they're going back looking for stuff, sometimes this is a little more difficult for them to find stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. Instead of the topic. Right?
Yeah, and so the real reason I wanted to show you this one is pretty cool here, that they have some graphics for each of the folders to make it a little more visually appealing for students, so they know how they know what dates those are. All you got to do is, you just put an image in when you set up the folder. You know, it has the description in there. You just put an image in there, and then that'll show up. Right.
I may
Yeah,
have to switch
so
to
it kind of
USB.
depends. My point of this, though, is, we kind of set this up, and how is it working for your students? We've been using this for, more than half the year now, so it might be a good time to check with your students on how's the organization that we're using in the class working for you. Are you able to find stuff you're looking for when you're going back looking for resources? Is this easy for you to use? Maybe, yeah, just kind of get their input, because the ultimate goal here is, we need this to be easy for students to use, right?
I
And
will include it in my survey. And I always have the feedback
yep,
about what do I need to do, and as well as resources.
yep.
Good thing you mentioned all.
All right, so something that goes a long ways. All of our students have Chromebooks, right? And we need to kind of make stuff Chromebook friendly. There are a lot of documents I've seen posted, Microsoft Office documents, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Publisher, some things like that. They don't work particularly well for students, especially if you want students to interact with them. If they're resource materials that you're posting for resource materials, PDF files work a little bit better than these. The whole point of PDF files, PDF stands for portable document format. It's designed to look identical no matter what device you're looking at it with. And sometimes I've seen files here that are Office documents that just do not look good on the Chromebook, no matter what you do with them. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And it's quick and easy to convert Office docs to PDF files. Just save as PDF, and create those things. But one thing that I really encourage you to do is when you're posting stuff for your students, preview your lessons on the Chromebook as a student.
So PowerPoint is distorted also. I posted some PowerPoint.
PowerPoint's not so bad, but the Office documents often rely on fonts that are resident on your computer that are not available on the Windows. Yeah, we're gonna talk about some things to do with PDFs and some ways to handle some of those things today. But really, this is a big thing. Preview your documents on the Chromebook to see what it looks like. So how can you do that? Well, there's a couple ways. Work collaboratively with another teacher or with your PLC. If you don't have an in-building PLC, and I know it's tough for you, right? But there are AP Physics teachers at other schools in the district. Your PLC doesn't have to be just restricted to Salem High School, right? And actually, the whole idea behind PLCs is it kind of organically grew from, hey, I need to work with other people. And, as you're building your lessons and stuff, everybody across the district is trying to build their lessons. If you're working with a PLC, even if they're not just here, you can share files and you can share stuff with Schoology. They can join your classes, you can join their classes, and it makes it easy to work with each other.
People are uploading words and documents and they're all messed up.
Yep. So that's what we're looking at today. So the Schoology courses that we're in now, your sandbox courses, you do get kicked out every day. Jennifer and I have each other's sandbox course code. I've got it on a sticky note on my computer, so she'll say, "Try this for me." So I'll look there. Wilbur Powell's looking for you, Brian. Wilbur Powell's looking for you.
You're very popular, Mr. Megan.
I know. So we can also, Jennifer and I have the class that you're in now is I call it my day pass class because you get to stay in it for one day. But I do have a course that I created so you can stay in it. If you or your PLC wants a course like that, Jennifer and I can set that up for you so you can all be in it. I know there's at least one or two courses around the building, one or two PLCs that people have set up a persistent course so they don't get kicked out every day. And that works really well because some things it's easier to build in a course than it is to build in the resource folder. So it gives you a better place to collaborate. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit now about converting documents to Chromebook-friendly formats. Obviously, Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, because these are Google Chromebooks, right? The Google stuff works way better on those than the Office documents. Schoology pages and assignments are another good way to do that. Also, there are some Chrome apps that will help you out. And for assignments, the Google Drive assignment app really works very well for students and really kind of almost duplicates some of the compatibility that we have had from Google Classroom. Now, your question about PDFs, right, is there's a website called Kami, right? It's free, and you can have students go there. You can upload your PDFs. The problem with that is that you attach it to an assignment or something, and you're going to hear me come back to this today a bunch of times. How many clicks does it take, right? So you attach a PDF, they click on it, it has to download to their My Drive, they have to go find it in their My Drive, click on it, open with Kami, it opens with Kami. How many clicks are we up to now? 4, 5, right? So now they edit it in Kami, now they have to save it back to their Google Drive, and then they have to, okay, now how are they going to turn it in? Now they go to their resources, to their Google Drive, they find it, and then we're up to like, what, 8, 9 clicks for them to turn an assignment in, right? It kind of is a problem. There is a Google Chrome extension for Kami that's, that allows you, you know how when you have the Google Drive resources down there, it adds a Kami resources there. Students then, you add it with the Kami attachment, they click on it, it opens in Kami automatically, they edit it, they click submit, and it's done. It's not a freebie though, is the problem. Yeah, it's about $100 a year for that, but yearly. There was an RFP for digital tools. I sent Kami the information about the RFP. Whether or not they followed up with that, I don't know. And even if they followed up, there's no guarantee that the districts like their offer and, you know, is going to purchase it. So we won't know anything about that until probably August next year. But if you're somebody that's really heavily invested in PDF files, and you have a big library of those, I'm going to show you a way that you can create like graphic organizers and stuff in a few minutes that might be a little bit easier to use for students. But as you're converting your files to that, because it does take a little bit of time, you know, this might be something to consider. For $100, it works for all of your classes. You know, if you're teaching 5 or 6 classes with 150 students, and that can save you a substantial amount of time. $100 is not really, you know, hugely exorbitant. I mean, it's, you know, you pay almost that going out to dinner sometimes, right? So there are links down here in the presenter notes about this, and there's this Kami extension link will actually, I think this takes you to the Google Drive, to the thing in the web store, but there are links down here that demonstrate that. I haven't paid for it, so it doesn't work for me. All right, so let's take a look at a couple ways that I've seen people have stuff included in their Schoology classes. Sometimes you'll go down and I'll see these in teachers' classes. They've used file link in their resources and added files. And they're gonna look 2 different ways. So this is a PDF, this is a Word document. They're gonna open in the Schoology previewer, so the students will be able to see what's in there. And you know, if this is a resource, especially if it's, you know, heavy in equations and stuff like that, yeah, equations, graphs, stuff like that, this is probably an okay way to provide resources for students. But something to keep in mind when you link these documents is that these are really read-only for students. There's not really much they can do with those, right? Great for complex documents. And this one, that's the PDF. The PDFs are better than the Word documents, you know, for the reasons that we just talked about. But there really is no student interaction for these. So for resource materials, something you want them to read, something you want them to refer back to, this works great. Yep. Yep, stuff like that. All right, so the next one, these are documents that are linked into a Schoology page. So I went to materials, add a page, and then, or this works the same if you add an assignment. So you can attach documents down in the bottom left-hand corner. There's this menu down there. I clicked on this icon right there. It created these links. Now, these work almost the same as the other two, except they have a view button, right? The difference here is that the view button, when you click on the view button, it's exactly like the other ones. It opens up in the Schoology previewer. Students can see it, pretty much it. They can use it as a resource. If they click on the file titles over here, though, it downloads the file. So on their Chromebook, it pops up down here, but it downloads their files to their Google My Drive. Now, if students have been doing this all year, can you guess how many files they have in their My Drive? 700,000 of them. And then what do they do with them? Well, now they got to go find them in their My Drive. They can click on them there. It opens in the Google Drive previewer in these two formats, right? Then they can open with, or they can download, or they can print, or whatever, but Chromebooks, they can't print. So it's kind of a dead end for them, right? It's not a whole lot they can do with those files once they get there. All right, so some other ways that you can put files in. Now, this first one here, this is going to be, we're in a page, or add an assignment, either one works the same way. They've clicked on Insert Content, and then the Google Drive Resource app. And what I've selected here on these is Import Link. Now, here's what it shows up. It shows up just as links, and this top one up here is kind of deceiving because that's actually already been converted to a Google Doc. But it doesn't look like it, does it? Because it's got the docx on it, right? So one thing that I try and encourage people to do is if you convert a file from Word to a Google Doc, take the extension off of the file name. So students don't see docx, because that's not a Word document anymore. It's a Google Doc, right? Now, this one up here, because it's a Google Doc, this works. This has a really fantastic usage. If you have, like, say at the beginning of the year, right, we set up a Google slideshow and we want each kid to edit a page of it, we can set the file sharing in Google Drive so everybody with the link can edit, put it in using this link. Now the kids can click on that. It opens in Google Drive. Everybody can edit collaboratively in this document. So that works pretty well if that's what your intent is. If this is just, some resources you want them to see, a lot of times I see things linked like this and it's instructions. So they click on it and then it opens in a new window, right? So we've added an extra click. Now they have to go open a new window, read the instructions, go back to Schoology, right? So we're adding extra clicks. Now these two documents down here, because they came from my Google Drive and I inserted the links, when I open these, they actually open in a new tab and they open with the Google Drive previewer. So this is Google Drive's previewer, not Schoology's previewer. So I do have some other options. The open with option is there. I can download that file if I want. Where does it go? It's going to go right to my Google My Drive, right? I can print. Nope, Chromebook can't print. Not much I can do else there, right? But if I've got a link to a PDF document or actually the Word document and I've got DocHub or Cami attached, it'll open in those apps. So I've cut out at least one link from the other way to do that so students didn't have to download it to their drive and find it. So, but they do still have to then save it back to their drive, and then they do have to then figure out how to turn it into you. So still not the easiest way in the world for them to do that. Okay, with Google Docs, you can, with the Insert Content Google Drive Resource app, you can insert embedded documents. Now, the embedded documents work pretty well. This one right here, this link, this is my materials list. This one has embedded Google Docs. I click on it, it opens in its own page, and then here's my instructions that I typed in over the top of it, and then here's my embedded Google Doc. Now, a couple things happen with this. When it puts in that green placeholder or the yellow placeholder in there, depending on how you've resized that. If I didn't resize it to this width, and I only put it this wide, it scales the document. So it's literally itty bitty tiny, right, in here. So the kids can't see much of it that way. This actually has a scroll bar because it's not long enough. If you look at it in my Schoology course, there's more stuff down here, and I only set it to like this high, so kids have to use the inside scroll bar to scroll through that. This one is embedded a little differently. This one over here at the very bottom of the page, I clicked on this button right at the bottom, display on new page, which displays in my material list like this. They have to click on it. It opens a new page in Schoology. There are times where that's appropriate, okay? This one is set up, I clicked that same button and I changed it to display inline. What that does is when you're in the folder, you're looking at the title, so you see the links, you see the link. This one, here's the link. If I click on that, it looks exactly like that. But in the list, I can see the embedded document in my materials list, right? But again, if I haven't resized that placeholder to the proper width, they get a scaled version of it that's really hard to read. It's really not the most useful way to do that. So a better way, particularly if you've got like instructions, and I see this a lot with people putting in instructions. So here's the instructions. Click on this link, open the instructions, and then go back to Schoology and click on the next part, and then go to this, right? And then we see a lot of those things. A better way would be then to create a Schoology page. So add a page, and then just take the text, copy, paste it in here, and then it displays a little bit better because it displays right in line, and you can format it a little better to make that show up there. You do have your options, so you can display the page in line or display it on a new page, right? Depending on how it looks. This is actually displayed, we put some images in there. There's an image and there's a video in there. So this one has a little bit more pop to it than this one, right? Because we've added some images and stuff in there. Now, to recreate your documents in the native Schoology formats, when you create the page, you've seen this toolbar show up, right? So you can use the bold and italics, underline, bullets, text color, background, stuff like that. The alignments, left, right, center, indent to help to make your documents look a little better. There is in here strike through, superscript, subscript. I find this one particularly useful, especially if I'm copying from Word documents or Google documents, because if I copy and paste in, it keeps the formatting from my document. And sometimes my documents don't always use the same fonts. They don't always use the same font sizes and stuff. So when I paste stuff in, first thing I'll do is highlight it all, clear the formatting, and then I kind of start from basic. Just keeps all the text in there. And then I can use these tools to kind of make it look the way I want. So that's a good tool. Insert content, right? I can insert the images or the videos, stuff like that. I can insert symbols. The equation editors are actually pretty good in here. They will allow you to create, equations right in there. I wouldn't want to sit there and use it to, solve a problem and have multiple lines of equations.
You have to adjust the font size to use that. That's what I've used in our math analysis. What's this curriculum? Mm-hmm. Because we were really asked to use that. You have to adjust the size.
Yep.
Otherwise, it would be fraction.
Right. So you do have to make some adjustments there. One thing Jennifer wanted me to point out here is tooltip. Tooltip allows you to highlight text that you put into your page, set a tooltip on it that when students hover over it or click on a word or a phrase or whatever, it'll pop up with a little dialog box that kind of defines the word or gives you more information about that. There's a video here that's linked here for how to do that, and Jennifer will show you how to do that. The apps, these apps in your list may look different than mine depending on what apps you have installed in your Schoology. You can embed YouTube directly in there, Gale eBooks, Quizlet. Yeah, you can import these things, and when you click on these and put them in there, if you have a Quizlet, I've seen people that have Quizlets, and here's the instructions. Click here, go to Quizlet, put in this code to join my class, do this, and it's like 12 steps to get to Quizlet and get signed in. If you use the embed code right here, it just takes you right there. You're automatically signed in. You're automatically in the right class. Some apps do grade pass back from the app to Schoology. So once we get the grade pass back working from Schoology to Synergy, you don't even have to grade those things. Boom, boom, boom. It all falls back.
That would be the link, right? If I click on the Quizlet.
This actually embeds Quizlet. There's a page, yeah, there's a page later on embedding stuff, and I have an embedded Quizlet in there. You can take a look at the examples on that page. But these actually keep students in Schoology. They don't click on it and it doesn't open a new window for them or anything. Keeps them right in Schoology, so it saves them from having to click, 100 clicks and getting out. Now, as far as formatting, once you've cleared the formatting, you also have this tool right here. Paragraph sets up like body text, so it's a defined size. You can put in heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, and those things will be formatted according to the font sizes and rules that Schoology has built in. You can do pre-formatted and block quotes, and it just helps your pages more consistent look. So, rather than this page is these fonts, and I copied this in from this other document, and it has different fonts, and this one has colors, and this one doesn't, to kind of help to build some consistency into your course. And the other thing here is the change font size that you were just talking about. You can change the font size of your stuff in Schoology. So which of these looks more appealing, more visually appealing? Plain white, or we got a little pop of color? Right? So this is fairly easy to do. I mean, this is an inserted image. That's a heading size. That's text with white text with a red background, right? So just some quick formatting things in your documents, and you can make them look a lot more visually appealing. All right, so let's talk about some assignment types and some ways that people are assigning things. So this is actually taken from somebody's class. This was an assignment. It said instructions and rubric are attached. All work should be turned in. Complete this. Basically, it's complete this assignment in this document and turn it in. It's a Word document, right?
All words, that's fine.
It's a Word document. Well, it's intended for students to fill out this document and turn it in. So view or click on it and download it, right? So I can do that download, find it in my drive, open it with something, because it's not going to open and be able to edit in Google, right? So I'm adding clicks, I'm adding clicks, I'm adding clicks. So I kind of revised this. This is one of those documents that the scoring rubric was in a table, and man, the table was all jacked up. It didn't look right at all in this. You can actually see it if you go to the linked assignment down here in the speaker notes. You'll see this, and it just does not look friendly. So this is a more student-friendly way to do this. I recreated the document in Google Docs. It is mostly text, right? But I did a couple of things. This one has name on it. There's no need for name, right? Kids don't need to fill in the name on the document, right? And when you show them something like that, and it didn't need lines, blank spaces for them to write in, because they're typing on it, right? So I took some of those things out. And that way it looks a lot less like, hey, I just pulled this out of my notebook that I've used for 20 years and pasted this in here, and right? And you still got to put your name on it, so it still looks like a paper assignment. So I took those things off and made some just quick tweaks so it doesn't look like a paper document. Okay, so I'll show you. Yeah, so there's a couple ways that you can check to see you know, if they've done those types of things, especially, you know, when you create this, it creates the assignment that says Supreme Court case review, Stephanie Young, right? So it has their name on it. You can actually go in and see what they've done in here. There's an extension called Trackback, I think it's called. It actually will rebuild the document in real time or in fast forward motion from exactly what they have done. It uses the version history in the document. So if you're sitting there looking at it and all of a sudden, boom, everything's pasted in, you know they've copied it from somebody, right? And you can always go in and look at the version history and see there, and you can go into the sharing settings and see if they've shared it with somebody. Yeah, come see me and I'll be more than happy to walk you through how to do those things. If you think you've got kids that are cheating by doing those things. Yeah. Right. Yeah, well, there is that. You know, and that's kind of our next generation stuff. Yeah. That would happen in Google Classroom too, you know, so it's not just limited here. All right, so what I did here is I cleaned this up. I took the rubric, I added the rubric to this assignment as a scoring rubric for this. So kids click on the Google Doc, they open it up, they type in it. When they're done, they click save and submit, and boom, it's submitted. The teacher then goes in, pulls it up, opens it up, and then the scoring rubric pops up, and they click 3, 2, 1, 3, 4, 6, and it's automatically scored using the rubric, and it's done. So rather than here's the rubric, and now I have to go down and figure out how to do that, we can add scoring rubrics. And if you have items that you always use the same rubrics on, you can create the rubrics in your course or your resource materials, share it to your class, and then you can assign it to multiple assignments in your class. So it makes it easy for rubric-based grading. So this is a lot more student-friendly than this, right? A tip, if you're using the Google Drive assignments on these, you know, the problem with this is that if I copy this to a different class or I copy it to my resource folder and then next year I copy it back to my class, you have to reattach the file to it. And the problem is next year I'm not going to remember what file it is. So what I've done here is I put in parentheses the name of the file that I want to attach. That way when I do the Google Drive attachment next year, I know what to search for. It makes it a little easier to find those resources. All right, graphic organizers, and this might help with what you're talking about with the PDF things, because you can download, you can save a PDF as an image, right? So this was the first one. This is a PDF assignment, and it said, you know, complete this graphic organizer and turn it in. So again, you have the view and the download button. So then you're again going back to click, 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 click. So a more friendly version, in the speaker notes, there's a quick 3-minute video on how to create a Google Slides version of pretty much anything and make it into a fillable graphic organizer. Basically what we've done is you go into Google Slides, you set it up, copy it, create a master slide from it, and then create a new slide from that master. Then kids can't move that stuff because all that stuff is a background. If you've got a PDF that you need to make a graphic organizer or worksheet from, you can do that same thing, just save your PDF as a JPEG image, put it in the slide, make that the background on the slide, then they can't move that, and they can fill that.
Because I did that once and all my images were almost on my.
Yep, and the kids moved because they were able to click on it and move it. The instructions are down here in the speaker notes, or please come see me or Jennifer. We will be more than happy to help you. I think you guys know how to do that too, right? So Christy and Stephanie can help with that too if you want help creating those. But this is a lot easier because now the students click on it, they open it up, they do whatever they need to do in the graphic organizer, submit, they've turned it in, and it's a lot more streamlined and it's a lot more student friendly than this one. All right, so we talked a little bit about the placeholders and when you do the embed, you know, the sizing. So there's two ways that you can resize things that have a placeholder. Number one is you can click on it. When you click on it, you get handles in the corners and in the sides, so you can click and drag. You also get this image icon. When you click on the image icon, this was for an image that I posted in here. It works for videos as well. Different things have different pages on this, so some of the tools are the same. Some of them have extra tools. The first one up here is image description, and let me just talk about this real quickly. If you post an image and it has words on it, particularly, you need to put whatever it says in the image description, because this is actually used by screen readers, and it helps to make our documents and our Schoology more ADA compliant. The school system got hit with an ADA compliance issue for our websites a couple years ago because we had images on there and we didn't have a description of what the images were. So people that were visually impaired that are using a screen reader had no idea what those images said. So if you have images, you really need to put a description of what the images are, or even if there's nothing there, just kind of description that says pretty flowers or something like that. Alignment, you have three choices. Nothing means it just kind of stays right where it is when you put it in. It'll put it in the middle of a line, but then the lines above it and below it don't flow around it. It doesn't work like it does in Microsoft Word. Or you can set this to left or right. If you set the flow to left or right, it will send the image to the left-hand side, send the image to the right-hand side, and it will actually flow text around it. If you know the dimensions, you can actually put in height and width dimensions on here. Border puts a line around stuff, so it'll just kind of set it off a little bit. And then the vertical space and the horizontal space, a lot of times if you put images in, and especially if you have them left or right, text will slam right up into the image and make it a little bit unreadable. So usually adding a little bit of vertical and horizontal space, usually about 10 pixels or so, 5 to 10 pixels, helps to move those letters off of the image a little bit, so it makes it a little more visible, makes it a little more readable. All right, embedding apps. So this is kind of what we were talking about with the embed thing on the right-hand side. There are actually a lot more apps than show up in that menu that you can embed. Schoology has what's called an open API. It's an application programming interface that third-party developers can use to build applications that work within Schoology. They can do those grade passbacks and stuff like that. They can get information to put students in the correct class. Like when we have a PlayPosit set up, students get put in your class in Schoology or PlayPosit automatically based on your class that they come from, and we can pass things back and forth. There is actually a list. I've got it linked right here, but there's other places you can get to it. It's a list of some of the Schoology apps that Virginia Beach has written instructions for. And it'll tell you what it does and how it works and give you some instructions on how to embed those things. There are some examples down here, and you can find more if you click on the App Center right here. It'll open up the App Center like Khan Academy, PlayPosit. Jennifer said don't use the PlayPosit here. We have a better way to embed stuff in PlayPosit. Nearpod, Dropbox, all sorts of stuff there. There are like a couple, over 100 apps that will integrate directly in Schoology to allow students to stay in Schoology and not have to leave Schoology, so that we can kind of keep them captive there. So again, fewer clicks, right? Kind of the idea. Jennifer's teaching a class on this at the Digital Learning Summer Summit. The dates, well, I'll show you, I have those at the end. Yes, yes. Jennifer's teaching one of these sessions, and she is more than happy to work with you on embedding stuff. I'm happy to work with you on embedding things in Schoology, because it just, like I said, it does keep the kids from having to leave your class and go elsewhere. All right, so this page is kind of where I started with this class. This was kind of one of the big pushes for me to start. And I checked with the PE people, so they're okay with me telling you about this. A couple weeks ago, they came to me and said, oh man, we put this assignment in Schoology, and nobody's turning it in. It's just, they're not doing it. They're saying they can't do it, and help. So I said, okay, well, let's take a look at it. Well, it turns out their assignment was one page, one document. This is page 9, by the way. It has like 3 or 4 more pages down here. It was a Word document, of course, so they had to, go through all those clicks to start it. Then they get down here. Complete journal entry number 1. There's a link to the document. So they click on this document. It opens actually a Google Doc, so the students could fill it out, except that it's a view-only document because it's linked from inside this document. So the kids had to make a copy. Now they've got a copy floating where? In their My Drive, right? One of the 4,000 documents in their My Drive from this year. Edit it, get the sharing link, come back into this document, change the link, the hyperlink here, go to the next one, do the same thing. It's like 7 documents in here that are linked like that the kids had to open it, edit it, get the sharing link, come back, relink it. Why aren't the kids turning it in? I don't know. If I were in your class, I wouldn't be turning it in either, right? It's just, it's too complicated. It's not student friendly. So what we did is this was actually their next unit because we decided to move on and from this one and it's the next unit. This is how their next unit looked. It started out looking exactly like this, but we broke it down into, here's a couple of pages for information. Here's an assignment. It's a Google Drive assignment. They opened that one assignment, click submit, they turn it in, that's done. They didn't have to go anywhere and link it back in. This is a lot more student friendly than this, right? This is what we see a lot. We see these types of things that it's difficult for students to turn things in, and then we wonder why they didn't turn it in, or they didn't turn it in on time, or they've had to ask 20 people, how do I turn this in? How do I get this assigned in my class, right? So the goal here is just to make it more student friendly. There's a link here. This is the original document. If you want to take a look at it, it's called Quick and Dirty in my folder. This is the revised version. Instructions, and then that's an assignment, Google Drive assignment for them to turn in, Google Drive assignment. This is this is the not so good version because this one does have name and block and everything at the top of it and places to fill it in. This one I took all those things out and made it a little more of an electronic document rather than, a paper document that we're trying to shoehorn in. All right, so that's pretty much what I have. Now, we did talk about, there is a lot of front loading to creating your Schoology documents. And I know a lot of people are concerned about, well, I'm going to do this year, and then next year we're going to have something different. So 2 things on that. Number 1, we're in year 2 of a 5-year contract, so we got 3 more years. And downtown is already working on extending the contract for another 5 years. So we've got at least 8 years in Schoology. So as we move forward, we got plenty of time to live here in Schoology. It's not going anywhere. And I think as we revise our lessons for next year, we start to make them a little more student friendly. We revise them the following year. By 2nd or 3rd year in, we should have, instead of pulling it from the paper notebook, we just pull it from our resources and we're good to go, right? So some things about this. Work with your PLC. If you don't have a PLC in the building, create a PLC of your colleagues at other schools. Not just at other schools. Schoology is full of people teaching your subjects. Nationwide, worldwide. Work with those other people. Find them on Schoology. There are lots of people out there willing to share and willing to collaborate with you, not just in our school, not just in our district, but nationwide, worldwide. Work with those folks. You don't have to create everything. Ask us for help. We are here to help you and to help you make your students more successful. That's our job and that's what we're here for, and we would love to help you out with these. We're here. So our takeaways for today. Your paper and pencil assignments, you might have to revise those, right? We want to make them look fresh. We don't want them to look like I pulled it out of that notebook I've had for 20 years and scanned it and put it in your lesson. It doesn't show a lot of, you know, doesn't show a lot of investment on your part, right? To not make things work well for students. Use Google Docs for assignment starters when appropriate. You know, it makes those Google Docs, they really do make it super simple for students to submit assignments, to open them and create them and submit them and done, right? Create native Schoology pages so the kids don't have to take 20 clicks to get the instructions and then get back and then open this and open that. Boom, it should be right there in front of them. Stay in Schoology whenever possible, so limit your outside links. This is a big one. Preview your assignments on a Chromebook. And your ITSs are more than happy to help you to convert your lessons and to work with you on getting those things up and running. So last thing for today, if you haven't done the Schoology navigational marker or self-assessment, please do that. Complete that. There are some classes in Frontline. If you search for iTech, there are lots of Schoology classes in there for that are division-wide classes. And the Digital Learning Summer Summit is also in Frontline. There are only 2 dates this year. In the past, there have been 4 dates because we did a 2 days in June and 2 days in August. We're slimming it down, so we're only doing 19th in June and then August 13th. So 1 day. There are morning and afternoon sessions available in Frontline. Not Larkspur this year, yeah. And the morning session is 4 hours, 4 points, and then the afternoon session is 4 points. And there are lots of Schoology sessions going on. Jennifer's teaching stuff there. I'm teaching stuff there. There are ITSs and teachers from around the district teaching stuff here. And everybody is willing to share. So check those out.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys. Make sure you signed in. And good to go. Thank you. Thanks. Is it?
There's some cold air that just started coming down. There you go.
About this time of day, the air conditioner kicks in. And you can tell when it kicks in because it'll kick in and it'll get cold, and then it'll get hot, and then it'll get cold.